Welcome to the Hunting Beast Report, a live video podcast with Dan Infalt and host Jeremy Gillespie.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Stealth Outdoors. The off-season's a great time to rehab your gear, so head on over to Stealth Outdoors at www.stealthoutdoors.com to pick up some climbing stick wraps, cam buckle covers, platform cable wraps, or stealth strip rolls for all of your miscellaneous silencing needs. Today's show is also made possible by Hunting Beast Gear, innovators in mobile hunting gear and the designers of the Beast Sticks and Beast Stand. Check out the latest products at www.huntingbeastgear.com. And now, on to the podcast. All right, we're live. Today we got special guest Scott Buckley, and as always, we got Ashley Covert and Dan Infalt. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Hey, somebody let me know. It looks like it caught up now. The stream started kind of weird, so just let me know if the audio and the video is coming through. I think we're good, but somebody in the chat let me know. So the thumbnail, Scott Buckley, who, if you guys aren't familiar with Scott was on episode number 20 of the live show back 7 or 8 months ago, and it's got Scott with a pretty big buck, and we're going to talk about that today. But real quick before we get into that, last time we did a giveaway for the Lathrop and Sons non-typical insoles, and Curtis K was the winner. We had some issues and we weren't able to announce it on the live show, so I put a comment on the last episode, but I never heard from Curtis. So Curtis, if you're on tonight, we need you to email us at thehuntingbeastreport@gmail.com, and we need your name, shipping address, phone number, and boot size. So I'll announce that one more time, but Curtis K, you won last, and we are going to draw another winner later on in the show, so that'll be coming up. But yeah, so let's start out real quick before we get into Scott. Dan, what's the latest out of your neck of the woods?
I've been pounding it, really hitting it hard. I've been on to some good ones. It's getting a little better. They're getting a little more active. They're starting to nose around the does. They rut up here a little earlier. But I wasn't seeing any real giants, but a couple of nice bucks, like 140s, 150s. And I got a camera out in a swamp in a pinch point. And in the mornings, it was picking up a couple of those bucks I was talking about, 3 10-pointers that each one of them I'd shoot. And I decided to go after them, and they were coming through in the morning, and I thought I'd do a hunt before pheasants started, because the place just gets inundated with pheasant hunters, and they get into everything back here. So like 3 mornings in a row, these things have come in, and it was Friday, and Saturday starts pheasant at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So I got out there, navigated back. It's quite a ways, and got in a tree about, I want to say an 1/8 mile from where that camera is, but where I figured all those deer would be coming to that I was seeing on the camera. And I was quite sure of that. So set up there, and the wind was just off, but I was going to do it anyways because, it's my last chance for pheasant. So the deer would be coming from straight south, and I had like a south-southeast wind that just kind of just off, but it was perfect. I was in there, I was checking it, and it was perfect. And then right after sunrise, there's a shift in the wind, and it started blowing straight down the trail where those deer were going to come from. The deer were coming through at like 8 or 9 a.m. So I kept checking with milkweed, and it just kept going right down the trail, and you just see it literally following the trail. And I'm like, you know what? I should just get out of here before these deer even show up, because I never walked across the trail or anything. And I started thinking, well, pheasant doesn't open until 8 or 9. I could maybe get a clean hunt here tomorrow yet. But sitting here with my wind blowing at these deer is suicide, So I get down, or I'm going to get down, and I take my camera off, and I stick it in my pocket, and I start taking my arm off, and I hear something in the grass behind me. I turn my head, and there's an absolute monster I've never seen before coming in from behind. I don't know how big it was, but it was wider than its body. I would say it's like 25 inches.
Oh, wow.
And it had like baseball bat sized beams all the way around and out front, but I couldn't see tines because it was in cattails running, and it was running into the sun. But it came from just wide open grass forever. I don't know where it was coming from or whatever, but those big ones always do that weird stuff, you know? They always come from someplace funny. They always live weird, and that's how they get to those big ages, I guess. But then I went back the next day, shifted, or 2 days later. I didn't go for the opening day of pheasant opening morning. I had some things going, and I figured I blew it with that deer. But lo and behold, when pheasant opened at 9 o'clock, 2 whoppers went by the camera. But, I wasn't out there. But the next day I went out there, and by then it was dead. It's been dead since.
So action, but no follow through, unfortunately, huh?
Yeah, I had one last night rubbing a very large tree really close to me, but couldn't see it. It was really thick swamp. So there's been a lot of action. They've been moving and they've been active more in the mornings than the evenings lately. Probably because of how warm it is right now. I don't know.
Well, Scott, you've had some action and some results. So cue us up on the story of your hunt for this deer, and I'd like to know maybe what your techniques or your tactics were, because this is still what I'd consider relatively early in the season. I mean, it's getting to be where, like Dan said, they're starting to nose around a little bit. So give us the background on the buck. I think you had some history with it too, and tell us how that went down.
Yeah. I don't think I knew this buck from previous years, but I had an idea who he might be, but I wasn't 100% sure. But I had history. I started picking him up on camera. I don't know, July or something. I could tell he was a good one. He was old, heavy mass, big body. And I actually picked him up on one of my places, and so I could keep an eye on him, through camera pretty good. And he was around July, August. I'd check camera once a month or so, and he'd be on it. And then we had one hardhorn picture of him, I don't know, first week of September, and then he disappeared. Well, I was out back the other day, kind of just checking for sign along the edge. We don't have food plots here, but I got 23 acres here, and I got access to an 86-acre farm, but around me. But there's cut beans on it this year, and he combined maybe a week or so before I got the buck. So I took a walk out back, and I seen the edge back there was all torn up. I mean, there was like 1.5 inch trees, just broke right off, shredded. I knew it was a good buck. I figured it might be him. But I hadn't been getting any pictures of them, and I didn't have a lot of cameras in here. I usually don't run much because there's usually not many bucks on this place here. I mean, we might have one run the neighborhood. Usually I'm hunting down south, but so I don't do a lot of hunting here. But I picked him up, so I thought, I'll try see what happens. And I seen all this sign, seen some scrapes along the edge of the field. I had a couple cell cams on him, but like I said, I hadn't picked him up. So I wanted to get what that was. I think we come home from the farm on a Sunday, and I played hooky from work Monday just to kind of get a setup. I where all these rubs and a couple scrapes were, and I left my beast standing sticks at farm. I had a couple, so I didn't have my hanging hunt. I had it was an old Bear River Miles Keller signature stand. I had 2-3 of them back in the day. I had one of them out in the shed here, and the tree was too big. I had some old steel steps to get up there, but the tree was too big around. So me being in construction, I had extension ladder. That's really old school. I put an extension ladder up in the
That's
tree.
my style.
Yeah.
I put it up in the tree, and then I got my old Miles Keller stand hung up there. Yeah, I just use ratchet straps to ratchet strap the ladder and the stand, because the stand didn't have straps no more. And I got her set up, And I went out Monday night. It was kind of where I got timber kind of back behind my house, and then there's a brushy, like grassy draw that comes out of the timber, and that's where all that sign was. They come out, they follow that brushy draw before they enter the beans, So I kind of set it in that draw, kind of up above. It would have been on the east side of it, for a westerly wind, and hoping he would come out of that timber and follow that draw. Well, I sat there Monday night, and all I seen was I seen some does, a couple small bucks, I think, and then Tuesday, I think that's when that cold front. Monday and Tuesday, we had that pretty good cold front. So, and I thought, well, I'm going to go back in Tuesday. I went to work Tuesday, but I left early because I wanted to get in the stand. And I got in the stand like, I don't know, half hour before dark or something. I just seen tines, and he come out working that. Actually, there was a scrape on the edge. He was probably 50, 60 yards from me. He come out, pawed at a scrape a little bit, worked his antlers up in it, and there were just some hanging branches. And then he started working his way towards me, and I don't know, he got probably 30 yards or something, and he was moving it. I mouth grunted him and put a good shot on him, and actually I seen him fall.
That's always a relief.
Yeah, he made it up to the top of the draw there, and then he crashed, and then the son of a gun rolled all the way back down in this deep ditch, kind of right below me.
Yeah, can't make it too easy on you.
The body was just so big. That's probably about the second biggest body buck I'd ever killed. And I wanted to get him out of there for some pictures with his guts in, they just look fuller. But me and my son couldn't even budge him up that hill with his guts in. So we ended up field dressing him at the bottom. Then we had to, because all my equipment's at the farm, my tractor, quads. I really don't have nothing here, So we just 2 foot at a time, we got him out of that ditch, and we was able to hook my truck to him, pull him up, but toe strap. But that was kind of the story of him, and I was able to use my landowner's tag on it. I get a landowner's tag in Iowa, so I still got my statewide archery tag, and we've been hunting the public land pretty good too. I don't know if you want to hear about my things yet on that or not, but
sure. How's the landowner tag work? Do you have to own a minimum number of acres, and then does that give you a second or a third buck tag if you got a landowner tag?
That gives me a third buck tag. Iowa, you can get 2 statewide tags. One's an archery and one's a gun. You have to pick a gun season. There's early muzzleloader, there's first gun, second gun, late muzzleloader. You have to pick one of them. You can't hunt them all unless your landowner tag. See, the statewide tags, you have to pick a gun season. But my landowner, they changed that this year. I always had to you had to pick your season. If you picked it for bow, you had to pre-buy it, and if you didn't fill your bow tag with it, then it was done. This year they switched it to you can just get it right off the go, and it's good for any season until it's filled. So, that was a huge incentive. I went out and got it, so I was able to, use it for archery, and then I can keep hunting with my statewide tag. But I think it's a minimum of 4 acres you got to have, but it's got to be, I don't know if you got to have ag ground on it or not. I don't know. I did the application a few years ago, and I'm able to hunt, any of my properties with it. So, I signed up on this one, but, I can hunt my other farm. And, but yeah, it's pretty good deal.
That's a way better deal in Montana. If you want to get landowner preference in Montana for deer, you've got to own 160 acres, and for elk, you've got to own 640. So they don't, they don't give the landowner tags out.
You know, a lot of my non-resident buddies, when they hear how much I pay for this landowner tax, they're like, "What the hell?
Yeah.
It's $2 I pay for this
Oh,
landowner
geez.
tax." Yeah,
Yeah.
non-resident has like $600 plus applying for the points. So
It's good to be a resident.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, our regular resident tags are, I think, $28 for the buck tag, and then you got to get your general license. I think that's another $28-$30.
All these states stick it to the non-residents because same thing. My elk tag here is $24, and a non-resident elk tag's like $8.80. So
oh yeah,
they get you pretty good.
yeah.
West Virginia like welcomes everybody for whatever reason.
Yeah, Ashley, you got some static. I don't know if you're using the mic or maybe just your input. Huh? Try to exit and rejoin. It might have just been corrupted. It's sounded robot-y a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
what did that buck score, Scott? You got any idea?
I don't know. I would say 160s probably.
It
is.
thought it was older deer too, right? At least 5, maybe 6
I
or
would
7.
say he's really old. I mean, he had the giant body, just giant neck. Gray face, but that really don't mean a lot, But yeah, the Roman nose, and huge bases. I think he was 6-7 years old. Just all the deer I've been around, he just a good mass. He didn't have a lot of width. Cool brow tines.
Looks
he
like
had this
real big bases.
Yeah, yep.
Oh yeah, the brows are really cool.
Yeah, they are. That's what when we started getting on my camera, we actually called him Browser. In fact, my son said, "Man, I want to shoot him." And I think, like, did I kill the buck he wanted? I don't know. 2 out of 3 years, the buck he said he wanted to shoot, I ended up shooting.
Well, Scott, I saw you last year, and
yeah,
I have to say, either you went on a crazy diet, or that buck's got an incredible sized neck on it.
yeah, he was huge. I mean, just
so no diet.
No, no, I'm about the same.
I want to hang out with bucks like that, so I start looking skinny.
Yeah, he was just giant. I couldn't believe, I got some old scales, but if I'd had my tractor here, I might have threw him up on that, with a scale, and I didn't have a tractor here, and I wasn't getting too old to be lifting him up just to weigh him.
Right. It's a good problem to have. Shot too many big ones. Don't need to weigh them anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as far as the story, it was pretty sweet. I didn't, some of them bucks I get pretty in depth with history of them. And this one, I mean, it was pretty simple. Just a few pictures and put in. That was the first time I hunted them 2 days. I think I don't know if I put in a couple doe hunts out front or not. The landowner gives me, of the rest of the farm, gives me depredation tags. So,
okay,
we kill a couple does. We get a couple does for them here and there to keep them happy. And, yeah, so it works out pretty good, but
yeah.
So how's the public land hunting going?
That's going pretty good. The first weekend, this is down southern Iowa. We had some cameras set down in there in the summer, and I had 3 or 4 really good ones in one area. So I went back up in there. I think it was the first weekend. Did a hanging hunt. I think it was that. Yeah, Saturday was warm, and the cold front hit that Sunday, and the wind shifted, so I could get into this spot it was a good travel corridor. There wasn't a lot of acorns early. I really struggled finding acorns. I walked through, at least 3 big timbers there, around the opening of bow season and before. I couldn't find many acorns and just a couple spotty trees. Well, this spot where I had the bucks, actually had a cornfield. It used to be, it was sold 2-3 years ago by auction, and I assumed a hunter bought it. And then I found a hunter did buy it, well, kind of an investor. I don't know if he fixes them up, resells them or what. So it was just like old horse pasture last year, well, forever. So I got this thing, this summer. I thought, this guy kind of fixes these properties up. I wondered if he would take that pasture. Well, it was pasture, and then it was like old just grass hay ground they took off. So I told Cody, I said, I wonder if they're going to put crops in there, beans, corns. Usually they put beans the first year to break the ground. I said, that was this summer. I took a walk back there, and it's a 1.1 miles from the parking lot. So yeah, we went back and they had corn back there. I couldn't believe it, way back in the middle of nowhere, a cornfield. And I said, shit, Cody, this is going to be good this year. So yeah, that's when we placed cameras, and we had 3 or 4 good bucks back in there. And so yeah, I did that first weekend. I went in there and did a hanging hunt. That Sunday, we had the perfect wind, northwest wind, good wind speed. It was probably 15 miles an hour walking in, which is so dry. We've been in a drought through September and into October. We had a good wet summer, really wet for growing and everything, but then we went into drought, so it's so noisy. So that wind cover actually quite, I could get in without making a lot of noise, because I knew where they're bedding close to that corn. So anyways, I got set up and sitting there an hour, and suddenly I hear something coming. I look, here comes a little fawn running kind of through. Well, I pre-made a scrape 2-3 weeks earlier, right on the main trail that comes through. There's bedding, real thick cover, and I bet you they only got 100 yards, and then they take this trail that's probably 200 yards into the corn from where they bed. And so this fawn come through. Well, I expected, the camera showed the bucks come down this main trail and work this scrape. So anyways, it's like 10 to 7, it's getting pretty dusky out. I think last shooting light was maybe legal shooting light was 7:10 or 7:15 that week, if I remember correctly. And I'm in the timber, a lot of leaves. And then I heard footsteps. Well, it wasn't coming from the bedding, I thought, up the main ridge. It come from in front of me. And I thought, I had my binoculars then. It was a week after I forgot my binoculars, but yeah, so I heard the footsteps, and then I thought he would come into the 20-yard trail and work the scrape. And but he turned on a 30-yard trail that was real thick. But I did have one shooting lane about 10 feet. And when he turned, that's the first time I seen his rack, and I just seen heavy horns. But the side view, I really couldn't tell. You get a side view, and I didn't want to shoot the wrong one. If it was an 8-point, I knew there was bigger ones in there, and it was low light. So I'm like, he's at 30 yards. I had to grunt to stop him in this shooting lane, and his head's behind branches. So that sucked too. I couldn't tell. So I'm standing there, and I'm slowly picking up my binoculars to judge him. And I don't know if he's seen movement, but he started walking again. And by then it was thick again. And I got the binoculars. He's walking away, and it was one of the shooter bucks I was after. He was standing 30 yards. I could have thumped him, but I didn't want to shoot the wrong one, So he got away. And I don't know if I learned a lesson. I mean, it was ideal setup. I went in, and he just didn't come on the trail I thought he would. So yeah. So I went back in there the same thing. I think second weekend, Saturday was really warm, and then same thing. We had a cold front come in, wind switched to the north. So I said, I'll try this again. And I went back in there. I don't think I seen anything. I didn't see anything. So I think I seen a coyote come through. That was about it. So yeah, the second weekend was kind of uneventful. And then this last weekend, me and my son went to another piece, and my first thought was there's a water, a little water pond way back in the timber. So my first instinct is I'm going to hunt that, Cody, you can go over here. Then I thought, well, I already shot a buck because I'd already shot my buck. I said, Cody, I've already got my buck. Why don't you go to this water hole? Because I had a feeling with as dry as it's been, and that was actually a Saturday night, and it was probably mid-70s, still kind of warm. I said, you're going to see something. I know the bucks start moving into this area this time of year. I had a couple still cameras back in there, but I hadn't checked them, since August, and there wasn't nothing on them then. But so yeah, I told Cody, I said, pick this tree here, and I went. It was kind of on the edge of a piece of private. I went around to the north and then cut back to the east, kind of down in this bottom where I had a bunch of pictures of bucks last year, like start moving into third week of October. So I thought, well, I'll go down there and just kind of see if anything's moving in there yet. I got down there, got my stand set, sitting there, seeing a couple does. That last 45 minutes of light, I heard footsteps coming from the north. Real thick stuff kind of coming my way. That was the night. Yeah, that's it. That's the night I forgot my freaking binoculars. Always with me. And I could see a rock in the thick stuff, but I couldn't. I even got my phone out, tried to magnify my phone so I could see.
There you go. That's using your head.
And actually, I could see them better with my phone because my eyes ain't the best anyway. And it looked like a 2-year-old to me. It was working in the thick stuff it got to about 40 yards, I guess, maybe 45. So I'm watching him, and he's farting around. And I could hear acorns in there. I was surprised because I haven't seen many acorns. So I knew there were some acorns. Them does are feeding on them. And all of a sudden, I look up, last half hour of light, and I see a big rock coming up the ridge out of the private. And, of course, I didn't have my binoculars, but I could see he was heavy and tines. And he kind of he come up, but he was working on an angle away from me. And I think that I was just a little bit off target on these acorn trees, oak trees, dropping. I was just a little bit too far back. I think he got 50 yards. I did a couple soft grunts. I think 3 or 4 soft, kind of not real quick, just to see if I could, entice him in. And But I really couldn't, I kind of lost him in the branches when I did this. I thought, well, so yeah, then it was quiet. I just stood still for like 5 minutes, maybe 6, 7 minutes. I froze, and I thought maybe he moved on and I just didn't see him. I could hear the other buck walking a little bit, the younger one. And I thought maybe the big one walked through and, I just lost him. So I don't know. I just went to move or something, itch. I don't remember what I did, but all of a sudden I heard a snort, and that big one had been watching me, I think, the whole time. Probably heard the grunts. They're being old, mature. They're smart. He just froze and just, for 5, 6, 7 minutes, it was just frozen there. I thought he moved on. Well, he see me move, and actually, I don't hear a lot of big bucks snort, but he snorted 4 or 5 times as he ran off. And so, yeah, that was the end of that hunt. That was this last Saturday. And then I went over and I met Cody after dark, and Cody's all shook up. He goes, Dad, I seen a giant. He goes, he was a big 10-point, and he had splits on just the one side. He had a split on his G2, a split on his G3, and, wide. And he goes, he guessed, maybe 170. He came into this pond, and 30 yards from him, worked a scrape. He said it was every 10 minutes, but time probably was 5, but who knows?
Sure.
he was He couldn't pick a shot through the brush. You know, he was hoping if it came around the other side, he might have got a shot at it, but it would stayed in the thick stuff. And then he said it actually went back east, and I was only like 300-400 yards from him. I'm wondering if it could have even been the same buck, because he's seen that a little early on, the one that I seen. You know, I don't know. Yep. Didn't have binoculars. I just seen a good rack, but he went east and I was east, just more north, 300-400 yards, you know, so it could have been the same one. But got a drink, worked scrape, and then came out up there to eat acorns. But
anywhere on public up here, if you saw one like that, it would be the same one. But down there,
it
might have been a different.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. So yeah, we went back into that same area Sunday. He couldn't really hunt the water hole because the wind was kind of iffy for that. So actually, when we came out that night, I pulled a couple of them, still cameras or whatever. I just call them the non-cellular ones. I pulled one and I had a nice 10 on another camera more to the south border of the public land, like 2-3 times this week, came out in daylight hours in the evening. So Cody went and actually sat up on that one Sunday night, and he didn't see a thing. And I went back to the acorns. I just repositioned myself higher, you know, where they were heading closer to them acorns. But all I heard, the temperature really jumped up Sunday. It was back in the 81, 82 degrees, and you know, and then we couldn't sit on water. So yeah, we didn't see much. But so yeah, that's kind of been I've had some pretty good, 2 good encounters on public, and in 3 weekends, or a handful. Well, even a couple of them days, I don't even think I hunted because it was too hot. But I think 5 times out. Oh, and then Cody, he went down to a piece of public one day south of my farm, kind of one of them areas where you hunted, Dan. Yeah, he walked back in and crossed a pretty much dried up river, found a dead doe down in the river, EHD, because we're getting hit again in Iowa. And then when he seen a truck in the parking lot, when he came out, the guy was up there. And he said he'd found 5 dead does in this little stretch of river there on public. And one was in the process of dying. He said he felt so bad. He didn't want to, really it's illegal to shoot them, unless you put your tag on it. So he said it was curled up in a ball and process of dying. That'd be kind of tough to watch, a EHD kill. But yeah, 5 of them just in a half a mile stretch. So yeah, there's areas just getting hit again. We found a dead doe in one of my ponds this weekend down the farm, and I found a 2-year-old buck about a month and a half ago. But I haven't, I don't think we're getting it, bad this year like other years.
Do they not give you guys a replacement tag if you tag an EHD deer?
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I think in West Virginia.
I don't think so, because they're edible.
Are they?
So yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like a diseased deer. It's just I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there a bug that gets in their nose, suffocates them kind of? Yeah,
virus. They get I think somebody asked that once. They tagged a buck that was sick in Iowa. I'm almost certain they wouldn't give him one of them tags. I think I remember some situation, but yeah, usually normally most deer die within 3 to 5 days after getting bit by this bug. They get fevers and just go to water and die. But there's a couple. The strain last year, we had them dying into November. I mean, that's when we shed hunted our farm. We found 3 of my good bucks dead in the ditches, and those ones were alive like end of October, first part of November. They were they said there's different strains of it somehow, and these ones just they lived and got run down and died. But actually, this buck I shot out back, he actually had split hooves, and that's a sign of he was an EHD survivor from years past. We had it out here, I think, in maybe 2019, I found a buck dead below the house. Maybe another little one somewhere. But yeah, when they split their hooves, they say that's a sign of an EHD survivor. I shot one on my farm 2 years ago, an old 6-year-old. His hooves are split too. And you could tell it affected his rack because he'd went downhill from the year before and his hooves were split. And so
now, just to be clear, you're talking about one side of the hoof has got splits in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I kind of in your lobe part. I mean, it ain't a defined like split right apart like there's two parts to the hoof, like just big cracks on the hoof part. Yeah, I just remember they were kind of screwed up. The hunting public just shared a picture of one on their page that I think the DNR said it might have been EHD survivor 2 or something.
It's weird. You talked about that guy running into the doe. I don't know if it was EHD. I don't even know if antelope get EHD, but I found an antelope doe that was dying. Same thing. It was like curled up, and then
Oh, really?
I thought maybe I wasn't terribly far off the road, but I was in an area that doesn't get much traffic at all, like a car a day kind of thing. And it was like its feet were kicking once in a while and stuff. So I called the game warden and gave him the GPS coordinates and said, I don't know if you guys are tracking EHD or whatever you want to send a biologist out. I don't know if they ever did, but I called it in because, I think antelope get that occasionally too.
Huh.
And it was right next to a pond, and we're having a terrible drought.
Oh, really?
It's getting cold enough now where I think the bugs are dying off. But
yeah, that could be. I never heard of antelope or anything else getting it, but
yeah,
makes sense. Huh. What about snake bites? Do like antelope and mule deer get snake bites or does that kill them or?
Could have been. I mean, there's rattlesnakes around. I don't know. I didn't see any right there. Obviously, it wouldn't be necessarily
you
right
see
there.
Snakes while you're out and about?
Oh yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
I hate rattlesnakes, but yeah, I see a couple every year, and usually it's when you're about to step on them. So thankfully, they're not very aggressive. They usually
I don't mind a snake if I can see them, but yeah, they kind of freak me out. Like if I go to step and there's one underneath my foot.
Dan, did anybody see anyone? You guys were in Nebraska?
No, we didn't see him.
Huh. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was probably in some snake territory, but I never saw one.
Yeah. Well, that's good. The ignorance is bliss sometimes. If you don't see them, they're not there.
Nope.
They all hide when I come to town.
Yeah. Real quick, Scott, you posted something on your Facebook. I'm going to pull it up here and try to share it. But there's been we were talking offline before we got on today that there's been some really incredible deer killed in Iowa this year. And this is one of them. So let me see if I can get this pulled up here. And I'll let the clip play, and then afterwards you can talk us through it.
Okay.
Hold on, let me refresh it because I think we lost the start here.
Oh, got extremely lucky, very fortunate this October. Did not know where this deer was. I've known this deer for years now. He's a 7.5-year-old deer. A couple of the cold nights we've had in October, I've really just tried to find some observation locations just to try and find him with my eyes because he wasn't on camera. And then I just waited for really cold weather to go in when I thought he was in a couple spots, and I didn't have evidence that he was, but I kind of had a hunch he was in a couple spots. So the success on this is just waiting till it was right, waiting till it was cold to go in and not overpressure this deer. Passed him at 5. He was about 207. I think his sheds were at 5. And then at 6, he went down to maybe high 180s, 190s. And then this year he rebounded back and put on a lot more than when he was 5. So I don't really care about the score, but he's definitely got everything. And just once in a while it works out like this. I genuinely wish everybody had an opportunity to deer like this. With the right regulations, it really could happen, but that's why I hope the future keeps getting better. But I can't be thankful enough. God, my family, my kids, all being a part of this. So
Okay, so that's the clip there. And what do you know about that buck, Scott?
Yeah, that's Skip Sly. He's he grew up in Michigan over on the west side, I think, and I got friends that live in New Zealand area. I think he grew up in that area. I've listened to his story a few times, met him a couple times. Great guy, real good guy. Younger, I think in his 40s. Anyways, yeah, I mean, he was like us, as a teenager out hunting every day, just a hardcore deer hunter. I don't know, something in his maybe 20s, he started wanting to explore different states because he was tired of the smaller bucks. I think he started Ohio, maybe if I'm not mistaken, Illinois, just started, going out. And I don't know, he came to Iowa. I don't know if he was in his 20s or maybe 30. He bought his first piece of land in Iowa. I think moved shortly after. I might not have all these facts right, but just listening. He moved here and he just started buying, selling land. Started out with a small piece, fixed it up, sold it. I don't know. Rumor has it he's bought and sold 100 farms since he's moved to Iowa. And
wow. Turning
keeps,
them over, huh?
Yeah, now he's kind of a farmer, and he works his land. Yeah, I think he has his main piece and maybe some other pieces, but he's a huge habitat guy, always doing habitat work. Just good guy. He'd be somebody you should reach out to, to have on your show. He's great deer hunter, and he's just huge into land management, habitat. He does a lot for Iowa. He's huge spokesman for our hunter rights here. He goes to Des Moines to the Capitol building and fights for our rights. There's been a few issues come up, and he's been right there, talking to the legislators and he does a lot. I mean, he just generalized. Yeah, and I think that buck, I guess, was around 230 or something. But yeah, it's a heck of a buck. And he passed it like in 2 years before at 207. Now that's something that I can't do.
Yeah, hard to let a 5-year-old 200-inch deer go. So props to him, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, they've been cranking some big ones here. Cameron Coble, a friend of mine, he posted something yesterday, or today, I don't know. Yeah, 3 bucks in Iowa that he knows of so far, 230, 240, and a 250 got killed. I seen the picture of the 250 today. Yeah, just some, giant deer being taken again this year in Iowa. And, yeah, they're still here. It's definitely the
incredible
state of dreams for whitetail anyway.
Real quick off topic, I did see the Curtis K in the chat, so I put a message in there. Curtis K, if you're still watching, you won the giveaway for the insoles last week, so send me an email with your name, your boot size, phone number, and send that to thehuntingbeastreport@gmail.com, and I'll get that over to Steven at Lathrop & Sons, and they will get you your pair of insoles. Speaking of that, we got the non-typical insoles here, and it's probably about time to give those away. We're coming up on the Q&A, so pick a number 1 through 250. One guess only, please. We had some multiple guessers last week. We're watching you, so one guess only, please. And first one to get the number exactly on will win. If no one gets it exact, it'll be the closest one without going over. So 1 second here.
Question?
Yeah, we're going to do some questions.
Was it this year you got the elk, Jeremy? And
yeah, well, I half got the elk.
it?
I half got the elk. Yep. Please rub some salt in my wound, Scott. Why don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember that was last year's. I remember seeing it. Well, yeah, congrats on your. Well, at least you got them. And
yeah, no, it's like I said, we talked about it. Bittersweet there the way it happened, but I'm convinced, I say this every year, that next year is my year. I'm going to make it happen all the way and have the recovery the same day. So
have you got anything else out west or?
Not this year. Nope. I missed an antelope on a pretty windy day. Had him right around 50 yards, which for an antelope, that's usually about as close as you get. And just didn't hit him at all. Clean miss. And then I've been out for deer Oh, a handful of times. I had my target buck, the only really mature buck that I know of. I had him one night at like 85, 87 yards, and it's like open CRP, typical Western stuff, not a
Yeah.
tree for a mile kind of deal. And I had a little tiny bit of terrain, just couldn't get any closer. I didn't spook him or anything, so just watched him walk off, and that was it. And then I was out this weekend. Kind of, a lot of people don't know Montana's rifle opens pretty early. So this Saturday, the 26th, is actually the rifle opener. So I was out for the last weekend of bow this past weekend and kind of scouting for rifle too. And I got into an area where I'd seen some muleys in the past. Didn't see a single deer, but I saw 3 bull elk. So that was cool. One nice 6x6, probably like a 320 type bull. So had some action, just the wrong kind of action.
Yeah, good.
So Ashley, I sent you the number. Looks like we got a winner already. So go ahead if you want to announce it.
Wisconsin bow hunter hit it dead on with, what was it, 171?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, Wisconsin bow hunter, you are the winner. So send a email. Same thing. We need your boot size, phone number. We'll have your email, but send and shipping address for Curtis K. I knew I was missing something. So Curtis K. and Wisconsin bow hunter both send your shipping address and send an email to thehuntingbeastreport@gmail.com, and I'll get that stuff over to Steven. So thanks again to Lathrop and Sons for putting on this giveaway. We got one more week. We got one more week of insoles only, and then starting in November, we're going to do insoles and a gift card, and then December it's 2 sets of insoles. So they got the 2 different kinds. They got the one that's geared towards the rubber boot, the non-typical, and then they've got the Synergy. So they're going to give away a pair of each of those, a gift card, and then at the end of December, 1st of the year show, 1st of January, they're going to give away a pair of boots. If you want to be eligible for the boots, you do have to click on the link. There's a link in the video description. Click on the link and join their email list. That's a prerequisite to win the boots. But the insoles, you don't have to join the email list. We're going to give those away every week. So Ashley, thanks for that. Wisconsin bow hunter, congratulations. Dan, you got anything you want to add before we get into questions today?
Not really.
Yeah, we've been quiet for Dan today. We're hogging the mic today, Dan.
What's your shirt? What's your shirt, Dan? I see a cat, but
Cat Trump.
9 lives, baby. The Trump cat.
yeah, I thought that's what it was.
That's awesome.
I couldn't see the words though.
I'm just going to correct Wisconsin bow hunter. It's Ashley, but I appreciate it.
Rachel, who's that?
I don't know.
He's in trouble now. That's your alter ego.
We're on a break.
That's right. Yeah.
Friendsome. We're on a break now, sir. No insoles for you now.
No.
Are
Okay.
we
So
ready?
guys heading down to Iowa this year, Scott, any tips for this time of year?
It's been extremely dry again. Like when you was down, we had a lot of water early. I would suggest, hunt if you're in timber areas, hunt down low where the vegetation's a little more, green in the low areas. Up high, especially in the big forest areas, just everything's so dry. I haven't seen a lot of acorns. I was texting Ted from Hunting Public the other day, or he texted me, congratulating me on my buck and asked about acorns because he just got back. And I said, I can't find any. And then he texted me later, said, yeah, he hadn't seen many either. But yeah, I kind of hunt down low or vegetation, if you can find water sources, around water. It's just, we had our first rain last night. We got 1/3 of an inch since I think, last week of August. We maybe had one other quick shot of rain down there. So yeah, it's going on almost 2 months without, probably 1/2 inch, 3/4 of a rain, 2 little rainfalls in 2 months. So it's really, really dry again. So yeah, that's what I would do. Concentrate around water if you can. Yeah, if you can find it. It's dry out there, but I'm sure the bucks, they'll be running here a couple weeks. they'll start running some of them drier hilly areas.
Yeah, if you're coming out early to Montana, that's a great tip too. Because same thing, Scott. We had a pretty good spring, little bit in June, and then July. Literally every day, at least where I'm at, was 90 to 100 degrees. We didn't get any rain. We haven't had hardly any rain at all. And I've seen a couple of reservoirs where, since I've moved here 5 years ago, where these reservoirs have had water every year, and some of those are even dry this year. So it's the driest year since I've moved here, and that was part of my plan over the weekend. Is I know where there's a pond about 2 miles into some public. So I hiked out there and was like, this is the only water around for 3 or 4 miles. So if there's animals around, they're going to be here. And I didn't see a single animal. Well, I saw those bulls on the way out. So I guess maybe they were heading towards the water after dark, but yeah, that was it. So until it snows, water's a good plan of action here as well.
Yeah, that's what I'd concentrate on now. That's where, like, Cody sat up on one the other day and seen that really nice buck. Or down low, and where the veg. I noticed I sat down low that one night, and you could see the grass is greener, the forbs and weeds were greener, and them deer were browsing on that down low. That's kind of where they disappeared last year. I couldn't find nothing hardly in the hills, and they were kind of. At the end of the year, I did an inventory. I had some still cameras sitting here and there, and that's where I found, even in, that late October, early November, they were down all, like, I had a couple of water holes there. There was a lot of bucks down low in the areas, but my cameras up high in the hills didn't have nothing hardly, because it was 2 years in a row we've been super dry in the fall. But
Well, Ashley, we got any questions from the chat?
We've got quite a few different questions. Tres Valentino said, is it better to hunt thermal hubs from the ground or a tree stand?
Sounds like a Dan question.
I would rather do it from a tree stand. How about you, Scott?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think with a thermal hub, if you go, if you can get the wind blowing straight down them things, and you get right up to where the hub starts, just before it starts to swirl, you get the thermal to drop and the wind blowing down it. That's perfect. But you got to be patient to have that scenario. And you can get right into that bottom. And then if it's in a situation where the deer are dropping, all that bedding from around all the points on the different draws that lead into that will all drop to that one spot. And there's usually going to be a giant scrape right at that spot. I would set up a tree stand, and I would try to, be up into the air current that floats down. You want to see them coming. You want to hear them coming. Tree stands are always better. I mean, I'm not against hunting on the ground, but when you're on the ground, your scent will do things in that lower brush that's heavier. It'll move around a little, shift forward a little stuff. You get in a tree, it'll kind of drift off of the tree down and get away from you. And you can see and hear deer coming a lot better. So you see them from a distance. You get a lot more shot opportunities from a tree because you shoot over the brush. It's just a way better scenario all the way around. You just go in just far enough to get to a point where you can get up a tree. You look for the cover. You don't climb up one that's bare open in the middle where every deer in the hub can see you. You just have to be careful about it, like in every setup.
You got anything else to add to that, Scott?
Nope, Dan's got that one.
You got that one covered. That's one thing I've noticed too, switching, like last year where I switched mainly from being a ground hunter to a tree hunter, like hubs and stuff like that. I have a lot better chance when I get up higher versus what I had, because I still hunt the same areas that I hunted, but there's a lot more that walks past me without spooking when I'm up higher versus when I'm down lower. If I'm on the ground, there's hardly anything that's going to walk past me. Whereas when I'm up higher, I actually get a chance to see it come in and go out instead of get angry at me.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it has to do with the thermals and the hubs and everything dropping, because it's always bulls that we hunt.
So, Scott, did you ever get back into that hub I went into where I was down on the bottom where I saw all those bucks, that really big one? Did you get back over there at all?
I never hunted it. Me and Cody went back in there shed hunting, but I never went. Oh, he went back in there gun season, didn't you, Cody? Were Dan seen that big one back in there? Yeah, I did. Yeah, he went back in gun hunting.
You should do a bow hunt in there. I have a point where I got to.
Yeah.
Man, that was a good spot. I mean, there wasn't a lot of sign there, but man, the bucks that went through there were
that's
incredible.
a good area.
You know, especially that last week of October, if you guys are hunting in that area, because rut, there'll be guys getting into everything. But,
that's used to be one of my favorite areas. That's where I killed that 170 back, just that finger right within probably 100 yards of where you sat there, October 3rd. Right in there.
That buck I had at about 25 yards last year, I think it was all of 170.
Yeah, there's good deer in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we found quite a few EHD deer when me and Cody went in there shed hunting. We found, I don't know, a dozen or so bodies through that area.
I couldn't believe how many dead deer I found when I was walking around. If I found that many dead deer around here, there wouldn't be any deer left.
Yeah, there's pretty high deer numbers in that area, so I'm sure they're, it kind of sucks when you lose some bucks, but they're still there.
I should be able to draw in 2 years, so shut this EHD off this year, all right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's what some people ask me. Is it worth it coming out? I said, well, there's always deer running. You just don't know. The HD, it's hit like 2 years in a row now, and in 2019, and just can't get a break. But
yeah.
Well, if Harris gets in, she'll do an executive order against the HD, and it'll be over.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right.
She's campaigning on it.
She won't be getting in. Is that how she's rallying us now?
Right.
Goodness gracious. The next question is from Jay Bizzle. He said, with history of an adult deer holding the wind, can it be hunted?
Say that again once.
With history of an adult deer holding the wind, can it be hunted?
What does holding the wind mean? You got any ideas what he's talking about, Scott?
Like maybe always walking in, always walking into the wind, how you going to set up on it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Always that mature buck, older buck, always using the wind to his advantage.
What I would say about that is I don't think they always do.
Yeah,
I think if they're doing that on a regular basis, because they know you're there.
Yeah. I have camera data. I watch bucks a lot. They maybe if they're coming into a pressured food plot or a field, they might quarter into the wind a little bit. But I always said if a deer always used the wind, he would end up in China. He's got to go in it at one point or another. And I think the bedding part's pretty critical. When they're going into bed, they'll use it more. But I mean, some bucks do. Every deer has his own personality, I think. But yeah, I see a lot of bucks. I mean, I've been studying some of these around here, watching, especially on my cell cams. It teaches me a lot. Just don't tell me where the deer is. It just teaches me so much. I can put it on video mode. I can look at the wind. That's the cool thing about cell cams. It's live. I can pull up the wind right there. And what's this buck doing? Is he walking with the wind? Is he, I learned a lot just by studying, them live videos, wind, and some bucks will, but not all the time. I hit some this week, a couple big ones. They're going right with the wind, it's like you're not supposed to do that, but
I've seen them do everything to the wind, and I've shot probably as many deer in crosswind as I have coming at me as I had, on a just off wind. A lot of times that just off wind, people misunderstand what I mean by that. It's a just off wind because where he's bedding and where he's going, he's got the wind to his advantage. So I'm just trying to get the wind off of him so I can hunt him. That's all I'm doing. It's not necessarily that he's doing that because he's smart. It's just the way the setup is. Like a lot of times in hill country, if they're bedding on points and they're eating up high, well, they're bedding on the points that are leeward, and they're going to be walking into the wind every time. It's not because they're walking in the wind because they're smart. It's because that's the setup at that spot. You know, so all you have to do is find some little off thing, like on the points. Usually have a draw on one side, on both sides. You know, I'll take the one that's got more of the lean of the wind and let the thermal drop down, you know, and come in from the side and try to just force your wind off to the side. But you just got to do what you got to do in every setup. It's really like the guys who do the best on big bucks, especially on public land where it ain't like presets and stuff. But the guys that do the best are really the guys that have a detective type mind. You know, like I'm sure Scott's the same way as I am, but a lot of guys aren't. Where if you know a buck's in a situation, it'll sit there and it'll bother you until you figure out a way to hunt it. Right or wrong, I mean, I'll make a lot of setups where I fail, but I'm going to take a stab at it, and I'm going to try to find some way to kill that deer. You know, if you know, a lot of times it's as simple as waiting for the wind to change, but a lot of times you have to go take a stab at it. I mean, like we've had like 15 days in a row of south winds and other guys getting in areas, and I got to get in there and hunt this thing. I got to do something. I do that almost weekly. I'm got some forced little hunts, and a lot of times those are the ones I kill the bucks on.
Yep.
You agree with that, Scott? You kind of got to make it happen.
Yeah, just for instance, I was thinking about the last 2 bucks I was talking about on public land. The one the first weekend, he come in, you know, I had a north wind, which was blowing behind me, but he walked right, you know, right. The wind was at his back, walking right into me. And the same one is this last Saturday night. We had a southerly wind, same thing, walking into the acorns. You know, he was walking right with the wind, and both of them were really mature deer. You know, probably 5-year-old deer, and you know, by the looks of their bodies and stuff. You know, so I could see them. Highly pressured areas, you know, maybe doing a little bit more, especially food people hunting food plots and stuff. You know, they smell you once or twice on a food plot. Yeah, they're going to come into the wind a little bit more, you know, work the wind.
You know what I see in them food plots, like the bigger ones or the fields, the lowest spot because they get all the thermal drop.
Yeah, exactly.
But they'll circle around. They won't use the wind at all until they get to that point, and then they come into that danger zone using the wind. Yeah. And that might be what the guy's experiencing, because I have seen them where a guy's got to stand in a position where he really pinches off an area, and deer get to know that stands there, and you'll see them check to see if the person's there. They'll go downwind of it, or they'll look for them, or you know, you'll see stuff like that. But mostly what I see with wind is they bed based on wind, and they travel based on wind when it's rut, but usually a crosswind. Like they try to smell a whole area. You know what I mean? And they're not smelling for people, they're smelling for does. And then the other thing they do with wind is if you spook them when they run. Small deer scatter. The big ones tend to either do one of two things. They run into the wind, or they run wind to tail. And wind to tail might sound funny, but they want to know if they're being followed. You know, they want to know if they're being tracked. So either that, or they want to know what's in front of them. You know, but that's usually when they're spooked. Otherwise, they just go from point A to point B. You know, I see them get up out of bedding, and they just go down whatever the heavy trail is coming out of the bedding. Going in is a little different. They smell it to see if it's safe. But coming out, they just kind of wander out, you know. And
what else we got in the chat there? Anything else?
Yeah. Devin said, I have some big bucks on cam. I hunted the areas and have seen the same ones, but can't seem to get the big ones to come through. Would you still hunt that spot, mobile, bouncing around, or consider moving on to fresh sign and areas?
if he's still getting pictures, if he's still got sign that the deer are there, I'd keep hunting. I'd hunt until I pushed them out of there. If I pushed them out of there, then I'd quit and go after something else. But you ain't going to kill them by not hunting them. You do have to be cautious. I mean, don't make a stupid hunt, because the more you hunt them, the more likely you're going to bust them. Make smart moves. But when you make your moves, just keep trying. As long as you got sign that they're there. I mean, they get pushed out of stuff pretty easy. But there's some deer, you can't even push them out of an area. They just stay there. They move around. They live in a small area. I've hunted some big bucks that live between roads that are in an area as small as a mile all the time. And I've hunted some where they're on the property you're on for a day or two, then they're 5 miles away a day or two, you know. And those ones are probably easier to bump when they got multiple locations they can go to. But if you think they're still there and they're still in the area, I would still hunt them.
Alrighty. This could kind of work for everyone. Jay Bizzle's wondering, with everything drying up, where do you go from there?
Scott's got it pretty dry. What do you think?
Yeah, hunt down low where vegetation's still green. You know, just hunt lower elevations unless it's flat. I'm not too familiar with that, but I'm in the hilly areas, so I hunt the lower elevations where it's, you know, things there's just a little more moisture in the ground. And
yeah, that's a point a lot of people don't get, because a lot of people don't understand, and I know where Scott's going with this. Is that they get their moisture a lot of times, their liquids, out of the plants they eat. A lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't know what percent. I mean, they could probably go 100% of their water intake is off plants. So you get some of these big hilly areas that are so dry. You know, normally a deer don't even have to have a water hole. He can survive off plants. You know, that's all he needs is the vegetation. There's enough moisture in it. Well, now that's all dry. So they're down in lower elevations, you know, where they could get green, you know, your forbs, your different things they eat is more greener down there. And that's their water intake too. So.
And then obviously if you have an isolated water hole of some sort, even if it's like a dry creek, if there's somewhere along that creek where there's some water standing.
Yeah, there's a lot of creeks I know that are dry, but you get just a little deep hole and you'll see a million tracks, you know, in that little hole. They'll all be hitting that, you know, that one thing, one little spot of water. It can be, you know, 1.5 feet wide if it was just a, you know, deep little hole.
I found a spot one time where a giant tree, a really big diameter tree, fell over and pulled up a root ball and dug a hole in a swamp where it dries out later in the year. And man, was that the spot, because it was close to bedding all around it. And the deer were just going to that like crazy.
I don't know if you've ever seen like when stuff freezes up in the winter, you know, lots of times there's not even snow. Well, I've seen, you know, where the ice, there's just like a little hole in the ice, like a little spring, and there'll just be hundreds of deer tracks around that, you know, just little foot spot where the ice is, you know, or the ice is broken or just in, you know, freeze there. And you'd be amazed, you know, you wouldn't think they need as much water in the winter, but they just, there'd be millions of tracks.
We got like these little kiddie pools in the backyard for the raccoons to drink out of. And I've seen deer come when they're frozen. Like we get a lot of does in the yard, and they come over and they stomp on it until they break a hole. They actually know how to do that. So I'd imagine they do that in the swamps too. I mean, like in the water.
Oh, I have one question before you get back to your other question. I haven't listened to all the podcasts you've had, but did you ever catch the guys pooping in your backyard?
That's a very popular question. Everybody wants to know.
I did not. It seems that they came for one concrete job.
Oh yeah, the certain guys,
done, and then they left. But they do have more concrete to do over there. But they never. It's like they're not doing that now.
Yeah,
they did one project of it and then they left. Yeah.
Concrete sounds like they dropped a few bricks off at your place, Dan.
It was funny because of the reactions I got out of that, because there were people that were like, that is just disgusting. You need to catch those people. You need to prosecute them. And then there's the people that are like, what is wrong with you, Dan? They got to poop, man. Do you think you own the land? Like, it's my property, man. It's my yard. My grandkids play out there. And they're like, but man, nobody should really own the land. It's like, what the hell? You know, there's just so many crazy comments I got about that. And really, I was somewhere in the middle. I didn't really
I'll be the same way in the middle
or anything. I just wanted to get a picture of him and go over to the neighbor and go, come on, man, tell him to stop.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
I'm not a Nazi or anything, you know. And I thought, this would be a funny video.
Yeah, that was right when you were heading to Nebraska, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So the next question is from Grant Henderson. He says, got my time off coming up to hunt, and the forecast is calling for rain the duration of those days. What would you do differently knowing that you're going to hunt during a 3-day rain?
I'd change my vacation. They'd move well in rain as long as it's not like a downpour. I mean, if it's just rain, they move really well. And I think the one thing is you can kind of get really close to them. They move good in daylight. I don't think it's a bad thing if you're prepared to hunt in rain, if you have the gear for it. And for me, it's always a pain because I'm trying to film. But that's a unique problem to me. I do know that when I didn't film, I killed a lot of deer in rain. And I killed a giant 8-pointer once in a thunderstorm that I had no business hunting. And it was so wicked. They move. I even think the rain kind of gets them up. It starts raining on them, and they don't want to lay there wet.
Yeah.
They kind of get up and start moving around and milling around.
Especially
like
it's
to
dry,
play
like our drought we've been having. They get a little rain. They're excited. They'll be out. You watch the does, out in the fields, and they're running and all excited, for rain because
they play in it, and especially in between, like when there's the breaks, the bucks will come out and play. The breaks are the best part.
Yep. If you get rain for a few hours and it lets up like last couple hours, wow, they'll come out in droves.
Mm-hmm.
You be out there, when that rain breaks and
it makes
that giant 11-pointer I got, that one with the really thick beams that's really wide, that crazy picture. That buck I got an opening day on a scrape in early September. It was raining all day, and I went to that scrape. I had glassed him going to that scrape out of his bed. I went there on opening day when it was raining. As soon as it stopped raining in the middle of the day at 1 PM, the thing got out of its bed, came over to work to scrape, and I shot it.
Oh yeah,
because it wanted to keep that scrape active, I guess. But that was a September scrape.
Well, and I bet you getting there was so quiet too. You didn't have to worry about very much noise at all because of the rain, which is another positive.
That's been one of our downfalls. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going around the internet. These professional guys won't hunt mornings in October, which if you're on a controlled piece of property, I understand it makes it tough, like my own farm. But public land, we're moving. I mean, we're kind of, you hunt one area one day, the next area. So it don't matter if you blow that in the morning, is kind of my thought. But some of my areas, it's been so dry, and we're hunting pretty close. Like I was talking about that cornfield situation. I had a couple of them bucks in the morning, but I can't get in there in the morning. It's just so noisy, and I'm so close, I'm within 150 yards from the cornfield. So I've elected to, not hunt mornings there just because I can't get in. Now, if we had a rain one morning, or a good wind where I could cover up, I would love to get into that setup back in there. But,
it doesn't even have to be raining. If the leaves are wet, you can walk on without making noise.
Yeah, we're hardly even having dew because it's just so dry.
It's crunchy.
Yeah, and mornings are usually quiet as it is,
All right, next question is from Caluminati Tau. What scenario makes a buck not bed on leeward ridges?
It's just something they prefer. They don't always do it. There's nothing a deer always does. A lot of times when you don't have good leeward ridges, or even if you do, they will find spots on ridges that aren't leeward, where there's a little bend or a shelf or something where they can kind of turn and use the wind to their advantage. Or if the access from humans is coming in from a certain way, they'll use the wind from that, or predators. A lot of times, even on a hill, they're bedding more based on, say, an edge, like a thick edge in an open area or something like that. So there's other scenarios for why they bed. Just leeward is just what they do most of the time. That's what we talk about. What do they prefer? And try to put ourselves in the best positions, but it's not always.
Kind of tying something.
Anything on that, Scott? You hunt a lot of hills.
Yeah, I see the same thing. Like, yeah, I see bucks bet on the opposite, sides. I mean, most time leeward, like Dan said, but I see it, every situation really. I'm trying to think of that one up by that cornfield. They're they're on the leeward side there.
We had Joe Elsinger on, real good Iowa hunter, a while back, and Dan, I don't know if you remember, but he had a thread on the Beast. This is years ago. It just always stuck out in my mind, where he had a bunch of cameras, and kind of like what Scott was saying, when it's dry, he was getting bucks on the windward side down low when it was hot. And he said a lot of those were because there was like a cool thermal coming off a creek, and or it was a facing slope, when the south facing slopes are getting sun exposure all day. And a lot of that was more early season. So there's a couple cases there where they might be on a windward side, early season when it's hot and or dry.
Yeah.
I'm going to end it with, what are your guys' plans for the next week or so, as far as hunting or scouting or whatever you're trying to do or figure out?
Scott?
We have a little cold front coming in the next couple days, and then kind of warm again. I might try to get out work early, but definitely this weekend. It's a little cold front. And I think that's going to kind of, these bucks are at that stage, what's this weekend going to be the date? Some 25th, 26th. I mean, they're starting to get amped up. They're going to be checking scrapes, especially if the weather's conditions are right. If it's warm, they'll move more late and early. But yeah, I'm probably going to work on, I got a couple scrapes in mind that got some buck action. That's probably what, in cover, the closest I can get to bedding, thick cover, because they're not, moving long distances yet. I won't be for a couple weeks out, but yeah, I'll be close to real cover scrapes. I've pre-marked a lot of scrapes, or even some I've made. That's kind of, and I'll start. Just hope we get a little more rain. We had that little shot last night, makes it a little quiet getting into some of these spots, but one way or another, I'll be hunting more mornings here coming up, this weekend, and that's kind of my plan.
Yeah, I'm planning on doing a lot more mornings. I don't get a lot of them because of work, but after the 15th of October, I usually do fairly well in the mornings. This year, I saw an exceptional amount of morning movement earlier, especially when it was really hot. When the evenings were really hot, they seem to be moving more in the late morning than I usually see. But right now, my plans are to start hitting it really hard. I like pre-rut better than rut, so I like this last week of October a lot more than rut. And one of the big reasons is there's just way too much pressure during rut. We're already starting to see non-resident plates in all the parking lots and stuff, and we're starting to see pressure ramp up. I went out to a spot tonight. I've been watching and waiting for the right wind and stuff, and I really thought I was going to have a kill tonight, because I put a camera in there when I was leaving one night, and I got 5 different shooter bucks in that camera. And a lot of it was daylight. And when I went back into hunt, it got a little slow over the weekend, and I thought it was just maybe because of the heat. But now there's a new trail cut right into where I was hunting, where a guy clipped branches and they made a trail, and it looks like he hunted there all weekend. So that pressure is going to kill me on a lot of that stuff, because that's a tiny property. It's just going to push them onto the neighboring properties if you overhunt that. But so that last week of October, not as many people hunt. A lot of people are waiting for the rut to take off. But during the rut, you kind of get lucky. You just sit in a funnel, you wait for a deer and stuff. I'm hunting target deer, so I'm going to kind of look at the sign. And what happens is my target deer are going to lay a lot of sign, and they're going to start having patterns done, checking on does that are fairly consistent, kind of like the buck Scott shot. He saw a pattern of rubs and stuff, And he went out there, tried it. It didn't happen. He goes out there the next day and he kills it. But you can do that in October. What happens in rut is that deer might be 5 miles from there tomorrow. You know what I mean? But a new deer might be there. But I kind of do better by targeting animals I know about than hoping one comes running through. You know what I mean? So for me, it's really going to be about locking in on some of the deer that I've located over the last month and a half hunting since I began hunting, and focusing on them. So a lot of my focus is going to go on that really giant buck that snuck up from behind me the other day. I know he's in there somewhere. I got some ideas. He's probably not going to come by that tree again, but I know kind of where he was headed. I know the area. It's really remote. It's really hard, but I'll take some stabs at that, but I'll hop around and maybe I can get on that one. But I'm probably planning on the next 2 weeks working a couple of days at the shop. Otherwise, I'm going to just be hunting solid. So
Feral time.
Off the chain, over the fence.
Yes, big dog.
Big dog.
We've got it. Big dog with a camera this time, though. What about you, Josh? You got any plans?
Josh, who's that?
Jeremy, my brain. Jeremy,
What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Rachel?
Listen, it's past my bedtime, y'all. You guys got J's. Jeremy.
You guys doing all this in front of Steve?
Yeah, jeez. No, like I said,
as soon as I said it, I was like, "Oh no!"
it's all good. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Jeremy, I'm sorry. Please
No, it's good.
What about you?
Yeah, rifle season open Saturday. I've only got one buck that I know of that I'm interested in. He's living on private half the time, so I'm gonna be on the Scott program. I'm gonna be checking some water, and we have terrible weather. It's supposed to be like almost 70 degrees for the opener, so. Basically, I'm going to be doing a lot of mobile scouting and trying to turn something up. Maybe I'll get a shot at something, but mostly checking out areas that have water left and areas historically that I've had good deer. And if people that don't know, we were talking about this offline. I was talking to Scott about it, but the winter of 22-23 killed a ton of deer in Montana, and we had 2 years of drought before that, so that it wasn't great. And they haven't cut the tags back, and they do spring aerial surveys every year. And I thought last year was abysmal. It was like the worst year that I've seen out here since I've been here. And they said the numbers are down 20 to 30% on the spring surveys from last year. So I'm not looking forward to this deer season. I've seen literally one mature buck. And I'm not talking about hunting. I'm talking about driving around because I drive all over to hunt. Cameras, the hunts I've been on, elk hunt, I've seen one mature buck. So it's an ugly year for deer. The elk are doing pretty good still, and the antelope are doing all right, but the deer are just decimated in Montana. So probably lots of walking, and that's about it. How about you? You got any plans? You or Justin?
My plans are to actually get out. It's been hot. I don't like bugs, and thermocells don't work for me. So I'm slowly waiting for it to not be hot anymore. I also don't do well in heat. So we're just, it's starting to drop. It's starting to get colder at nighttime, and I should be able to start going out. Justin's been out scouting. He did like 8.2 miles today. And I was like, you have fun with that.
Yeah, getting after it. It's good.
That's too many for me. I carry the kid for like a mile, and that's my jog.
There you go.
But I'm actually going to start getting out next week, and I'm super excited about that. So I'm hoping I can get some footage, and even if it's just walking through the woods footage, it's still fun.
Oh yeah, it's always a good time to be out there. I'm trying to remember too this year. It's because there's not much to target, so just have to enjoy the time out there. And if I hunt hard, maybe I'll turn something up. But real quick before we jump off here, I just want to share this link. This is one that's in the description. It's the Lathrop and Sons Beast Report. Enter for your chance to win the Killer Boot Bundle. We're going to draw it on December 31st. So if you want a chance at the boots themselves, not the insoles, the boots, sign up to win. Enter your first, last name, and email. And then I did already get an email I saw on my phone from Curtis K. So thanks, Curtis. I'll get that over to Steven at Lathrop and Sons, and then Wisconsin Bowhunter. If you haven't emailed already, send us an email. Again, shipping address, boot size, phone number, and I'll get that to Steven as well. So I want to thank Scott for coming on, sharing your story. Scott, always good to catch up with you, and always good to have those big Iowa dreams. I know as someone who doesn't live there, I imagine a lot of people watching this are wishing they were Iowa residents with your $3 tags and your 150s all over. So people are still hunting and working hard for those, but it's amazing to see, and it gives regular guys a lot of hope, I think. So I did see somebody in the chat too said they were heading to Zone 5 here shortly. So good luck down there. And Ashley dropped off, but thanks to Ashley. And Dan, turn it over to you if you got anything you want to wrap up with.
Yeah, thanks, Scott, for coming on. And always enjoy talking to you. Always fun to go over what's going on down by you.
Yeah,
it's always,
I
always
enjoy
funner than what's going on up here.
Yeah, it's fun talking hunting stories, and yeah, I enjoy. Yeah, I'll come on anytime you want.
Yeah, appreciate it. I hope you and your son do well.
Yeah, I think it's gonna. I mean, even though the farm's kind of not many mature deer, there's a lot of good bucks out there. I got on a permission piece too that it's got a pretty good couple ones on. It's just like I don't know, 60 acre all CRP with one ditch bottom going through, and I've got some good bucks on that too on a camera I've had, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, then we'll keep hitting the public and keep grinding.
Yeah,
awesome.
Let me know if you do any good.
Yeah, we'll have to get a postseason Scott report. So
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Good luck, everybody. That's getting to be that time of year. Everybody's excited about the next couple of weeks. So
yeah, good luck everyone.
Yeah, good luck to everyone watching, and we will catch you guys in a week. Thanks.